Well, it's a cold and frosty morning, 0.5 degrees on the thermometer. Never ridden a bike with a thermometer before, so that's a first. And I'm off to the BMW dealer today. The bike arrived with a little bit of a scratch on one of the wing mirrors, so just going to get that sorted out today. Got a replacement unit changed in, so it'll be my first time to experience the BMW experience that everybody talks about. So we'll see how they get on, shall we? A bit more on my learning the bike series. So obviously cold conditions. It was -5 here overnight. It's about 9:30 in the morning now, so I imagine the ground is probably still -2, something like that. So just going to keep my eyes open. I'd originally planned the motorway route. I was hoping to stick to the more major roads, but the sat-nav's popped up with a severe traffic warning. It shows that my phone is talking to the sat-nav and the Garmin app is working. So we're going to trust that. So again, it's a week since I've ridden. Back to basics, mirrors every 8 seconds, watching the vanishing points, taking it very easy. I'm starting to evolve a system to ride my bike, and number one is always being able to stop in the distance I can see to be safe. Number two is to see and be seen. And as a bit of a parenthesis, in brackets on number two, is just to always imagine that the other road users can't see me and to act accordingly. So it's a very defensive riding style. I don't know whether that's the way you ride, but that's the way I intend to carry on. I've now heard from the Institute of Advanced Motorists. Haven't made face-to-face contact yet, but exchanged a couple of emails. So I'll be posting a separate series on my experience with the IAM. I hope that can help. You can watch me and watch me make my mistakes, and hopefully learn something from that. And again, any advice out there, I'm happy to consider. So it being a cold morning, I've got the heated seat, the heated grips on. Got them up at 40%, and already I can feel the benefit of the grips. I think maybe even after 5 or 10 minutes of riding, I'd have probably lost the feeling in my fingers this morning without a fairing and without heated grips. So the luxury of riding a bike like this is already feeling like a benefit, I should say. So I'm riding through a beautiful frosty English morning. Road conditions appear pretty decent. A little bit of a gleam on the road there. So I'm in position 1 right now. It's actually interesting. The sat-nav in some ways is a distraction, but in other ways actually takes the workload off you, I've noticed. So having to navigate through town, it basically means I don't have to think about the route so much. It keeps pinging in my ear, telling me what to do, warning me of speed cameras, and it just seems to take a load off you. Actually, I think it probably could be a distraction if you used it in the wrong way, but I have to say, on a journey like this, it's actually a comfort to know that I've got a little piece of equipment there that can just take one more job off me, the navigation. And also it's paid dividends as well because of the traffic warning as well. And had I not have used the sat-nav and just jumped straight onto the motorway this morning, then I'd have ended up in my first ever motorway traffic jam on a motorbike, which wouldn't have been fun. On my last couple of films, you probably noticed, if you're eagle-eyed, that actually it was one ride but 2 films. I combined the review of the Motorcycle Live show with my first of my riding into history experiment projects. And on that ride I started to experiment with counter steering, so I'm pretty rough at it at the moment. But I did notice a real benefit, particularly going round roundabouts. Whereas in the past I've tried to lean my way around roundabouts and take them ultra cautiously. If you watch, you know, my early videos when I'm in the selection process trying to choose which bike to buy, it's almost like I'm wobbling around those roundabouts, which I very much am, riding very ultra safely and probably too slowly. But what I've noticed now is with just a little bit of a prod in terms of counter steering, then it just enables me to negotiate the roundabout a little faster. One of the hazards today is riding into a low sun, so I'm in contact on Twitter with a couple of police bikers. So a guy called Chris down in the southwest, very generous with his advice, and the advice is when you're riding in winter conditions with a low sun, number one rule is a very clean visor, scratch free. Make sure you clean it before every ride, but also experiment a little bit with your the position of your visor. I have a modular helmet as well, so as a last resort I can always open that and maybe use the sort of lower half of the helmet as a bit of a sunshade as well. But what Chris also said was, you know, if you find yourself in a situation where even with a clean visor you're riding into the sun and you're dazzled, then you just have to slow down. There's no choice. But when you do that, just be aware that a driver behind you might not understand the reason why you're slowing down, so as best as you can try and manage the situation behind you as well as the situation in front of you with the glare. So again, I'd be interested in your ideas in terms of how you manage the low winter sun. Maybe a few of you just park your bikes up in the winter and you leave them in the garage. I don't know. Very sensible, I should imagine. Another bit of advice from Chris was to, when negotiating roundabouts, if there's an HGV big truck in front of you, then let it go first. Don't get stuck inside it, so unless you can get ahead of it safely, then let it go. And I thought that's a really good piece of advice, so that's something I'm just trying to work on a little bit this morning. I think these police bikers have got they've got so much knowledge, so much wisdom, which they've just accrued over tens of thousands of hours. Well worth listening to. Another bit of advice I received through the comment section on the videos was to stay in a one gear lower than what you need, which I think probably gives you more flexibility, certainly around town. Maybe when you're out in the sticks, out in the countryside, and there's less I don't know, you're able to predict your speed more. Maybe that's not necessary, but in this kind of situation, then the traction and the engine braking, I guess, are, and the ability to be able to move quickly if you need to. Now, a more confident biker than me now, a more experienced biker, I guess you'd be filtering straight down the middle here, but that's the last thing I want to do. Trying to avoid the dreaded duck walking here, trying to keep steady, keep my head up. But 3 miles an hour is my absolute limit really for slow riding. First time I found myself in this kind of a situation where I've really got to just try and keep up with the traffic. Of course in a car, particularly in automatic, you just sort of sit there, don't you? Just enjoying the view, but in a bike you've really got to think about it, and the slower you go, the harder you have to think. In a car it's the opposite. You probably need to maintain a better distance between me and this guy in front as well. I've got into the habit as well of at slow speed around town lifting the visor up. Otherwise it's even with all the vents in the world, I think particularly on a cold day you just don't get the airflow through it, and it can impact on your vision. And on a day like today when it is so cold, and again with this with this low sun. I don't want to lose my visibility. Tempted to reach for the front brake when I'm slow riding, which obviously not a good idea. Trying to get into the habit of combining the rear brake, the biting point on the clutch, and a good sort of strong head position, looking well forward, not getting fixated on the ground. So let's let this guy get ahead of me. Well, the system's working well, the sat-nav's guiding me, got me through the traffic this morning. The heated grips are keeping my hands warm. So far so good. Mind you, that's what the man said, wasn't it, as he jumped out the Empire State Building and he passed the 22nd floor, so no real reason for compromise. Over the river, a couple of swans down there. Well, this is where it all started, and I'm back. Well, mission accomplished. Got a nice replacement wing mirror on, so the bike is, I would now describe, in an as-new condition. I've got to say, the whole buying process has been very enjoyable, really, very satisfactory. Full marks to Hunt's Motorcycles of Manchester, and those of you looking for a BMW, a good price with great service and fantastic backup, I can strongly recommend Hunt's. Big shout out to Rob Donnelly there, looked after me really well, no nonsense, just got on with it and we hit it off straight away. First time on the motorway on my new bike. Another first ticked off. I'm going to match the speed to the traffic flow.